Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's sacred space. Welcome to this morning's meditation. I'd like to welcome you all to this beautiful new day, and we're going to share in presence here this morning, and we're going to share some verse, maybe open some dialogue between each other. So if anybody wants to ask me any questions this morning, morning Tony, morning Val, I am a little earlier than usual, but I started to wake up at my regular time. So yes, I'm here. We're all here. So I'm going to read today's date from Opening Doors Within, and then I'm going to continue with the 40 verses on reality that I read yesterday. I'm going to read the slightly more explained version of that. And we'll just open the space up to any questions that want to be explored. So please feel free, Tony and Val and anyone else that's joining us now, to ask me anything. You cannot move on to greater works until you have sorted out your relationships and walk in love, peace and harmony with each other, harbouring no resentments or ill will. Weeds have to be plucked from the ground before they choke the plants which are growing there. Pluck out all the weeds in your life now, before they become firmly established and suffocate those beautiful plants which are growing within you. You cannot grow and expand spiritually when you harbour any hate, jealousy, dislike, intolerance or misunderstanding in your heart. Sort out your differences quickly and keep the love flowing. Never wait for the other person to make the first move. You can always do something about it, so why not do it? And do it now. Never put off until tomorrow what can be done today. Much is waiting to unfold, but it must unfold in the right atmosphere. The atmosphere of love. Love and more love. Yes, let's forgive those around us. Morning, Nick. Great to have you all here this morning. Thank you for giving yourselves this space. Yes, we need to learn to forgive quickly, because when we forgive others, we are forgiving ourselves. Everything that shows up in our life, including me right now and all of you, is a reflection of the One. And I am simply reflecting back to you your own imaginings. And you are reflecting back to me my own imaginings. We're all imagining this together. That's what makes it possible. We're so powerful, and our imagination is great. So use your imagination and imagine a more beautiful world, a more healthy world, a more loving world. And start by creating this in your own lives, because you are the centre of your world. You are the point of consciousness from which your entire universe and experience is expanding from. There is no one outside of you that's doing that for you. You are creating it yourself, knowingly or unknowingly. So choose to create consciously. choose to create what you want in your life consciously, and imagine it. Imagine this more beautiful world that we want to live in. So I'm going to continue with the 40 verses from Reality by Ramana Maharshi, and I understand that that's probably backwards for all of you. I read the first 40 verses yesterday, so I'm going to dive into those verses a little more this morning, because there are longer descriptions for each one in this, and these are precious nuggets that most of you will recognise, because we already know the truth. We already know what the truth is. The truth cannot be taught, essentially. It can only be remembered. So we are remembering what we already know, because we have all the answers within us. We just sometimes need reminders, and those reminders appear to us through our own imaginings when we need them. Because the world is seen, we have to infer a common cause, a Lord, possessing unlimited powers, to appear as the diversity, the pictures consisting of names and forms, the seer, the canvas, the light, all these are He Himself. A bit dark in here. Oops, sorry. Hopefully it'll lighten up. The 40 begins here. To understand Bhagavan's meaning, we have to use the key with which he supplies us in the invocation. There he declares reality to be the thought-free awareness which dwells in the heart. Here he brings in the world in order to meet on their own ground those disciples who do perceive a real eternal world. He is saying something like this, Morning Abjit. He is saying something like this: you see a world and ascribe an omnipotent creator to it. But as we have already seen, this creation is only an appearance, a manifestation of that awareness of which we are speaking. It has no more reality in itself than have the pictures projected on a screen. From the heart, thoughts spontaneously rise, like vapour from the ocean, and turn into a kaleidoscopic world of names, forms, colours, sounds, smells, and other impressions. These are in it, or on it, as on a canvas of which the heart is itself the seer and the sight. Pure consciousness, pure mind, is thus the pictures, the screen, the seer, the light, and the sight. Everything we see is pure consciousness. Nothing is outside of consciousness. All is consciousness, including this me, this you, this appearance. All schools of thought postulate the fundamental triad, God, soul, and world, although all three are manifestations of the one. The belief that the three remain eternally three lasts only as long as the I or ego lasts. To destroy the ego and remain in one's own state is best. Most religions are based on the assumption that the triad mentioned in the text is eternal. Just going to move this a little bit. All right. I'll read that bit again. Most religions are based on the assumption that the triad mentioned in the text is eternal. Bhagavan rejects this assumption as being the child of ignorant ego, which makes itself for the body. The I am the body notion compels the admission of an individuality, jiva, a world and its creator, as three distinct perennial coexisting entities. Bhagavan, as we have seen, perceives a single existence, of which these three are an illusory manifestation, which however vanishes the moment the eternal I is apprehended and the ego perishes. Of what avail to debate whether the world is real or unreal, sentient or insentient, pleasant or unpleasant? Extinguishing the ego, transcending the world, realizing the self, that is the state which is dear to all and free from the sense of unity and duality. Sorry, I'm going to have to mess around with this because it's gone really dark in here, I don't know why. The lights are on. The same line of thought continues. Destruction of the ego is a sine qua non for the realization of the self within the heart. It brings to an end all speculation about reality and unreality, God and world, whose true nature will be revealed in actual experience. This is the most blissful, attainable state and beyond the plurality of the illusory world. If the self be with form, God and the world will be also. If one be formless oneself, how and by whom can their forms be seen? Can there be sight without eyes? The self is the I, the limitless I. This refers to the jnani, who, although having a body, sees himself as bodiless and formless, and so cannot see God, or in fact see anything with form. The ajnani, the non-realized, perceiving himself as a body, takes God to be a body and worships him in all sorts of material, formal representations. Yet the fact remains that even he perceives everything through his own formless self, which we have granted to be the only seer, the only knowledge there is, the limitless I. Those who condemn idol worship forget that they themselves worship material symbols and icons, and attribute to God forms, dimensions, positions, even sentiments and sense perceptions, exactly as they do themselves. Having no experience or conception of a formless omniscient spirit, they feel literally lost at the idea of worshipping something not represented in a form. God thus appears according to the degree of the realization of oneself. Can there be sight without eyes? Means that without consciousness there can be no knowledge of anything, just as without a lamp none of the objects present in a dark room can be seen. Can there be a world to an unconscious man? Yes, Nick, it's a fabulous, very small book, but the truth is a very small amount of knowledge. The body is in the form of, and includes the 5 sheaths. Is there a world apart from the body? Has anyone without a body seen the world? This cracks me up. The body is a complex structure containing a large number of instruments or organs, which the self, as ego, uses for a large number of purposes, including, among others, those of hearing, smelling, seeing, thinking, feeling, memorizing, and reasoning. The materials out of which these instruments or parts are made vary from the grossest to the finest. The Shastras, the scriptures, have arranged them in 5 groups. To each group 1 sheath or kosha is assigned. The kosha deals with purely physical matter and is called the Annamaya kosha, the sheath of food, the Pranamaya kosha, the vital sheath, looks after the five-fold functions of the vital energies: breathing, assimilation, generation, excretion, and locomotion. The Mano-Maya kosha, mental sheath, contains the faculties of mentation. The Vijnana Maya kosha is the sheath of the intellectual and reasoning faculties, of scientific and philosophical thinking. And last is the Ananda Maya kosha, the sheath of bliss, or causal sheath, which stores up within itself the karmic seeds of every birth, and is concerned with that state in which profound peace is enjoyed by the dreamless sleeper. This kosha is made of the finest substance, sattva, which in itself is happy due to its freedom from grossness and to its close proximity to the blissful self. Morning Kala Kala. Thus the term body includes all these koshas, whose appearance and disappearance cause the appearance and disappearance of all objective and subjective perceptions. Assumptions of a body is therefore necessary for the world's enjoyment, and a body owes its existence, as we shall see in the next verse, to the five senses, which are the properties of the mind. The world is but the fivefold sense objects, which are the results of five senses. Since the mind perceives the world through the senses, is there a world without the mind? Through the sensory organs lodged in the five koshas, the senses display before the mind a variety of objects: physical, vital, emotional, mental, and intellectual. Apart from the five sense perceptions, there are all sorts of other internal senses which also arise from the mind, work through the mind, and are understood by the mind, such as the senses of time, of space, of I and mine, and the artistic, etherical, religious, and spiritual senses, for instance. Since these senses form the world we know and have one common origin, which is the mind, the world cannot therefore be other than mind. Although the world and awareness of it arise and set together, it is by awareness that the world is known. The source from which they both rise and into which they set always shines without itself rising or setting. That alone is real. This verse is reminiscent of the invocation and confirms the previous verse, which make awareness and criterion of existence as well as the source of the world. Awareness always shines as the limitless I mentioned in verse 4, the eternal knower. It goes without saying that the appearance of the world is simultaneous with the awareness of it, and disappearance of the world simultaneous with the withdrawal of that awareness. For the fact of the awareness of the world is the fact of its existence. We cannot affirm the existence of an object without first affirming awareness of it. Therefore, awareness is the only reality there is. Just breathe that in. Yes, sure, Nick. It's 40 verses on reality by Ramana Maharshi. It's a very, very tiny book. Because, of course, reality is right here. And it's actually very simple. We make it complicated because the mind likes to complicate things. create problems where there are no problems, and then create solutions where there were no problems. In whatever name and form the nameless and formless is worshipped, therein lies the path of its realization. Realizing one's truth as the truth of that reality and merging into it is true realization. All roads lead to Rome. All sincere worship comes from the heart and leads to the formless God in the heart. To believe that one's reality is the same as God's is an important step towards the realization of Him as pure consciousness and the process of merging into Him. How many millions of innocent human beings would have been spared the horror of religious persecutions throughout the centuries in the name of God, and how many wars would have been prevented had this truth been accepted as one truth underlying all religions, the basic world faith. The dyads and triads rest on the basic one. Inquiring about that one in the mind, they will disappear. Those who see thus are the seers of truth. They remain unruffled. The dyads are the pairs of opposites, knowledge and ignorance, light and darkness, happiness and misery, birth and death, etc. The triad is the triple principle of seeing, seer and sight, object, subject, and the perception of the form by the latter. As all the numbers stand on and originate from the first number, so are the dyads and triads based on, arising from, and of the same nature as the one seer, the perceiving mind. He who realizes the world as such retains a uniform serenity in all conditions of life. That is the meaning of inner peace, to remain in a constant state of contentment, of peacefulness, regardless of what is happening around us. Knowing that that is the truth and that is the real state of being, the only true state. Knowledge and ignorance are interrelated, and one does not exist without the other. Inquiring to whom is that knowledge and that ignorance, and arriving at their root cause. The self, this is true knowledge. To speak of ignorance is to admit its opposite, knowledge, and vice versa. Until we become aware of an object, we remain ignorant of its existence. To learn a lesson is to admit our previous ignorance of its content. Knowledge is thus the light which clears away the darkness of ignorance. But knowledge and ignorance which pertain to external objects are merely modes of thought. They come and go, and are therefore of no consequence in the search for truth. What is of consequence is their knower, who is fixed, changeless, also called the first principle, because he is efficient, causeless, the eternal thinker who precedes and survives all his thoughts, the basic one. It is not ignorance to know all. Is it not ignorance to know all, but the all-knowing self, when the latter, the subterranean of both knowledge and ignorance, is known, knowledge and ignorance themselves both disappear. It is of course foolish to know about everything in the world and remain ignorant of one's own self. Knowledge of the perishable, the universe and all its contents, perishes with the body and cannot be transferred to another body, except perhaps as tendencies or abilities in the perishable too, which may not have any spiritual value in a future life. The imperishable alone endures and gives imperishable satisfaction, and this lies wholly within ourselves, who are the source and ground of both knowledge and ignorance, that is, of all experiences, whatever. I'll read some more of that again sometime. So, good morning everybody, whoever's just joining us. We're now going to bring all of our attention and focus here to this moment, to this as the only truth that exists. Wherever you are now, notice the space that you're in, the room that you're in, the chair that you're sitting on or lying on, or the floor, or wherever you may be positioned. And just bring your awareness to the fact that there is nothing else outside of that room. There is no future happening. There is no past happening. There is simply this here now, wherever you are situated. And just breathe easily, gently, allowing everything to soften. Noticing that right here, right now, where you are, where your attention is, nothing else is happening, nothing else is existing. Just pure awareness. How can there be anything else outside of this? And notice how everything around you appears to be solid. But when you take everything apart, all that remains is empty space. When you bring everything down to its fundamental nature, it's empty space with pure potential for billions of possibilities. And if you imagine now that the room that you are in is completely empty, that there is no past, no future, no yesterday, no tomorrow, no morning, no evening, just this moment unfolding now, in this eternal now. and you look around in your room, and you look around in your space, everything around you has come out of the mind. Everything around you has been created. And so it's obvious to see that if everything around you has been created by the mind, then everything is mind. Everything is our imagining. Our experience is what we imagine it to be. The people that show up are the people that we imagine. We want to see in our lives. What will you create? What will you become? What will you choose to make your reality? What is most important? What does the universe call to you for? It calls for your presence. Every moment is a practice of presence. When we feel pain, it brings us right here, right now. When we feel joy, it brings us right here, right now. Everything we experience is to show us more of what we are, of who we are. More of the truth. Everything we experience is to deepen the love that we are, to deepen into that love, to awaken to the love that we are. And what we awaken to, we become. So we can go on dreaming. Or we can live alive, awake, alert, here, now. Only place truly exists is this. There's nothing outside of this. There was nothing before this. This is it. This is everything. This is infinite. This is eternal. This is life without death, death without life. Simply one flow of now. And you are that one flow. Everything is coming from here, 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 expanding, expanding. Everything is being seen from this point of consciousness. You are the universe, looking through your own eyes at yourself. And you show up in many forms, many ways, with many lessons, but it's all you. And it's incredibly beautiful. The divine unfoldment of God. And when I say God, I mean everything. I don't mean anything that is separate from you. And this moment is the most powerful moment because it is the moment that you create the rest of your life. It is the moment that you create the rest of your life, the rest of your experience is coming from this point. And what is real and true is the awareness of all of this. The witness of all of this. What exists here now without everything you see, you are aware of. You are the consciousness that is perceiving everything as it is. And what you give your attention to, what you give your intention to and attention to, expands. And it expands directly because you are consciousness expanding. And you are here to expand more and more. To know yourself more and more. To know thyself. To know thyself as the self, as one, as everything that shows up in this experience. This experience is also you. You being the self, the one. And so you can laugh about it because everything showing up is you. There's nothing that is not you. And when there is drama, it's you giving yourself drama to bring yourself back here now to get yourself to see what's real. The reflections that show up are many. There are billions of reflections of ourselves here in this world, this experience. And what you see is what you are, and what you attract is what you are. There are lessons upon lessons every moment of what is showing up in our lives for us to learn. Look for the lessons. If something's challenging, don't get mad about it. You created it. What did you create it for? What's the lesson? What is it showing you? What can you learn? How can you expand? And what you see in me, is within you. We are not separate. And I'm here in this way because you imagined me so, and I imagined you so. God bless you, Nick. God bless you all, beloveds, beloved reflections. We are so blessed. Truly blessed to live in this body and create and imagine our lives. As Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage, and all the men and women are merely players. We are all playing. It's a great cosmic play, the great cosmic giggle. And to wake up is to see the dream and no longer remain the dreamer. Being awake within the dream and staying alert within the dream. Breathe. Breathe it all in. This is it. And it's all for you. It's all happening for you. Namaste, beloveds. Wishing you all a blessed day. Whatsoever shows up for you today, now, in this expansive moment, remember it's all for you. It's all for your expansion and growth. And it's you. It is you. You reminding yourself of what is real and what is true. Om Shanti. Shanti.